What's up guys, Riley here, and today we're going to be going over this jjrc Q60. So, to start off this video, link will be in the description for this, if I can find it. Should be pretty easy. And I think it's about $60, or it was about $60 when we got it. We bought it off of Amazon. So let's get into this thing. So, we're going to start on the outside and work our way in. For starters, this truck has been modded. We've got some more upgrades coming for it too. But for starters, we're going to look at the body. So, the body is really what, really the reason we've got it. The cab's not screwed on. But the body is, like I said, really the reason we got it. My dad really liked it, but we were still hoping it would perform good. At least be able to do a few things. Not exactly rock crawling, but just be able to actually be usable. When you get this truck, if this is not for any kids or whatever, for inside use, then this is just going to sit on your shelf because this is garbage. The reason I say that is because it's not hobby grade. It has a motor for a servo, and the motor that it has to actually drive is super weak. It didn't have power to go up a slight incline, and we couldn't get it to go through the grass. And we actually burn up the motor in the first full battery. So from there, we started tearing into it. So the body looks really good. It does have an interior, which I have here. It's got a seat. There was a gear shifter. That's what that hole in the floor part is. I've got to glue it back in there. It's got somewhat of a pedal setup in there. Not much, just a couple rectangles. Now the reason I have this out is so that it fits because of the motor and transmission, but we'll actually get to that in a second. So, like I said, it's got an interior. The inside of the cab actually has a steering wheel and a dashboard. And so it has a pretty decent interior. All of the doors open, which it's only 2 doors. And then when you get this, so the interior has this piece on the front. It's like a little tray piece. So it'll be in here like this. And then you would open your hood. And that's where you would actually put your battery. It had a little battery extension or wire extension that was in here. And you'd put your battery in that. But I don't have the interior because of the motor and the electronics and stuff. One thing to go over is the wheels and tires. They don't seem too bad on rocks and stuff and dirt, but they don't come glued. So I ended up gluing the tires on, and they're way better. They're not soft at all. They're what you would imagine getting from like Target or something, Walmart, cheap RC car. It has a bumper. We don't have it on it right now, just taking the body on and off. We bought a metal one, and when we bought the metal one, we ended up having to trim the fenders some. But, I mean, it wasn't too bad. But I think that's about it for the outside. It's got a little tailgate. You've probably seen me playing with it. The bed actually holds a SEX24 without a problem. So this is a stock SEX24 Bronco. You can obviously tell that. And we've got plenty of room in it if I scoot it over as much as possible. We've got about maybe a ½ inch of space right here, and then probably about 1 inch of space right here. Probably can't see it because I think there's a shadow, but I can't see too much. About an inch of space there. I'm not even in the camera, but it's plenty of room. I don't think my C10 will fit. Never mind, I lied. So my C10 just has 4+mm axles, and then the FMS tires because I had to take my extended hexes off. And my C10 actually fits pretty good. We've got about a 1/4 inch of space right here. I can't even get my pinky all the way down in it. But the bed is a really nice size. It's almost like a semi compared to the SEX24s. It is a 16th scale truck, so it's a bit big for the SEX24s. But I mean, I like it because they fit in it, and as of now, it'll haul them. So, enough talking about the outside. Let's go ahead and get on the inside. So, this truck is not hobby grade. I think I've stated that. So, it's just a bunch of Phillips head screws. And this body screws on, and it looks to be 2 in the back. And then it actually screws on through the interior. So, once you get all those screws undone, this is not what you're going to have because you're probably going to have a stock one. But this has an all-metal motor and transmission. So far, it hasn't done too bad, but I don't think I've unleashed all that it has because the only battery I have right now to fit it is this 3.7 volt drone battery. 3.7 volts. The SEX24 batteries are actually 7.4. So I think if I got a bigger battery, it would probably run a little bit faster. So, I mean, it's just a little itty bitty battery. But, so the motor and transmission, you can get them on AliExpress or Banggood. I think you can get them on Banggood. I'm not too sure. But if I can find it, I'll put the link in the description. Here's this 30 amp ESC that I got. I'm not a fan of this ESC because it is, I think it's programmed, or just something's wrong with it, or it might be the battery. But when you hit the gas, it slowly speeds up, and then it finally, you know, does what it needs to. It's the same thing with slowing down. So you let off, and it slowly slows down. I'll show a clip of that in a second. Reverse is super duper slow. It's not even funny. It doesn't even have enough torque to bump over anything in reverse. I just combined all those words together. But like I said, I'm not a fan of this ESC combo. Now onto the not ESC, but receiver and transmitter combo. I am running a Dumbo RC here, X6F. You can see that. I don't know if you can see that. But it's a pretty good remote. I really like it. You can one-hand drive it pretty good. On and off switch right here. You've got a channel 4 on this side right there. You actually have a channel 3, which that button right there is actually a channel, which I never noticed that, which is kind of funny. It's got a few ports right here. I don't know what that is for. Then you have your basic steering and throttle trim, and your steering and throttle dual rate, and then your either reverse or normal steering and throttle switches at the top. But so far I've really liked this combo. I think it's pretty cheap. If I can find the right one, I'll list it in the description. But so far I've really liked that one. On to the next thing. So you might be wondering what I'm using for steering. I'm actually using a servo. It's a 9-gram servo. If I can find it, like the rest of, everything else. If I can find it, link will be in the description. So it's just a little old metal cased 9-gram servo. And because this was a motor to turn, not a servo, which is, I think is pretty dumb, it's chassis mounted. But because it was a motor, there wasn't a mounting position or spot for a servo. So I took all the motor and stuff out, and I took a burn-up SEX24 ESC case in there, trying not to, and I cut it out and was just barely able to squeeze that servo in there, which was pretty surprising. The little clips on the case hold it in, and then the case has just got some double-sided tape on it. But that's how the servo's mounted. Now how I turn, so the servo horn goes down, and then it goes down to the steering links, which I actually cut so that I have this screw in it, and it's got a bigger head, almost looks like a washer, and that's what I've got that holds on to the steering links. So the screw sandwiches the steering links between the steering link is sandwiched between the screw and the servo horn. So now that we've talked about the steering servo, talked about the servo, the motor and transmission, basically all the electronics, now we need to go under it. So under it I have metal drive shafts. We actually bought the wrong drive shafts. We bought the drive shafts for the 4x4 version, so we didn't get that 6th drive shaft for the or not 6th, but the 3rd drive shaft for the 3rd axle. Now, one thing to note, this has open diffs, or had open diffs. The diffs are plastic, so I actually just recently super glued them. So that, that improved the performance like crazy. So it does climb really good and off-roads really good, especially for as weak as the motor is right now. Hopefully I can get that figured out. But there's not much to this truck. It does have leaf spring suspension that I think you can get some upgrades for. We have some metal axles on the way. Hopefully it'll have metal gears and stuff inside. If not, it's alright. They are open diff axles, the ones that are coming in, I think. So I'll just, if they're metal, I'll JB weld them. If they're plastic, I don't have any more, or I don't have any super glue, so I'll just take these diffs out and put them in that if they fit. But to get these drive shafts on here, I had to modify the axles, so I actually had to drill the drive shafts out so that it fit on the shaft for the axle, and then I actually had to cut, so I took the gear out of this diff, I took the shaft and all out, and I actually had to cut part of this diff so that the drive shaft would fit on like it needed to on the front and the rear. So I had to do some modifying. The reason we are getting some metal axles is because if you put too much load on these axles, these screws right here will just strip out. You put too much load on it, because this right here is a gear, it actually just pushes the diff cover off. So that is one problem with this, because the screws are actually, they're like wood screws. So when you're trying to screw them in, it's really easy to strip out that plastic. So it's definitely not the best idea, but you can get by it by getting some metal axles. There's plenty on AliExpress. I'll put the link in the description for the ones we're getting. Well, I'm not going to do that yet. I'll do that in the next video when we actually get them, because I don't want to send you somewhere just to be safe. I don't want to give you the link and it not be a good website. So another thing we ordered for this was a servo mount. So on AliExpress they do have a servo mount. It replaces this whole front plastic piece, and the servo is able to screw on it. It is aluminum, I think. So that was definitely nice. If it's a 9, a 15, a 9, 12, and a 9, 12, 15, and 17 gram servo, I think. Not too sure. But the axles we're getting does have the links for it too, so you won't have to worry about that if you get those axles. And the next thing is we're gonna be swapping this motor out for a WPL B36 motor and transmission. So basically we're taking this mount, motor and transmission back out. We're going to put the stock transmission thing in, and then we're gonna have to mod it just a little bit, just cut it on the side some so that the motor actually fits in, and hopefully that'll be a good motor for this. I think the next thing we'll have to get is a battery, because like I said, that is just a weak little battery for this. So after talking about this, you probably want to see it go. So it's actually night, and it is raining. So I've got the body on here. I'll set the interior. I'll actually set the Bronco in the back. But I'll gotta turn it on first. So if you turn the receiver on first, it'll actually start driving away. Luckily it's slow, so you can catch it. So got it on, connected. I'll move it back, and then I'm gonna show you connected. So that's all we got. Now in reverse. Looks like we're stuck. So I actually think the battery's dying. So I'm gonna charge this battery, and then we'll come back to you.